Disney is one of the highest grossing companies in the world, growing from its uniqueness and its development in the film industry since 1923. Disney has made a huge impact on animation from its musicals to its comedy. One of the biggest elements aiding the success of Disney animation was Technicolor. This video essay will explore the history of Technicolor and the process used to create the first coloured feature-length film through the uptake of the pioneering three-colour method, leading to the development of silly symphonies and the release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In order to create a coloured animation, Disney worked with Technicolor, who had been experimenting on different methods for colour. However, one method in particular was majorly successful, the three-colour strip method. As you can see in the clip, the video frame remains black and white. For each frame, the animators had to use three colours separately to create the perfect colour frame. They began by putting a red filter behind the lens which would shoot the red information onto the frame. It was the same for the green and blue filters and then was printed into strips. This process was uncommon as animation wasn't hugely acclaimed in the early 30s. Compared to competing subtractive systems such as Technicolor and Chronochrome, Technicolor offered the best balance between high image quality and speed of printing. Disney was really depending on the three-colour method as it was progressing very fast and with its high budget. Novelist Maureen Furness quoted, "Even within animation, colour was used selectively because of the expense, so the use of colour in the film made it stand out from many of the other feature films at the time." By 1932, Disney had successfully created a coloured animation. Furness quotes, "One example involved developments in colour. In the film Flowers and Trees de Burt Gillett, 1932, Disney first employed the perfect Technicolor process, which was what was to become the most significant colour system in the American film industry at the time. This had won an Academy Award for the work. The narrative follows two trees who are fighting for the affections of the female tree. All subsequent silly symphonies from 1933 onwards were shot with the three-strip process." Paul Wells quotes, "Disney's desire to establish a popular art form in many senses an adjunct to this achievement, and one of the reasons why Disney in a certain sense remains a sacrosanct ideological category. For example, one silly symphony, Three Little Pigs, engineered such a positive audience response that it overshadowed the feature films with which it was shown. Silly Symphonies was however considered an experiment. Furness quotes in her book that the studio's cumulative experience helped prepare it for an impressive accomplishment at the end of the decade, production of its first feature film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, released in 1937. From the perspective of Fleischer Studios at the time, later to become Paramount, Richard Fleischer reminisces that on December 21, 1937, a world-shattering event took place in the motion picture industry. Walt Disney premiered Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the first feature-length animated film in colour of all time. Disney had used the Technicolor three-colour method to create the masterpiece. Many novelists have praised Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for its originality and the effects it's had on the film industry. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was a huge success, partly because of its incorporation of the animation techniques developed at the studio during the 1930s, as well as its use of Technicolor and the multi-plane camera setup. Relating to this quote is a series of images released by Disney which explores the process of making the film. As you can see, the images shown are indeed remarkable. The step-by-step process has been shown very effectively. Every frame was specific with colour. It shows how it started to the end result of each frame. The machinery used in making the film was vast in size. Therefore, the colour projecting took much longer. The film took approximately 4 years to complete, which was staggering to the film industry. When the film was released, it created a huge impact in America, while some were calling the film an icon. Due to the success of Snow White, many other companies wanted to work with colour. However, Disney held an exclusive contract with Technicolor for about a year after the film was released, preventing other animation studios from using the process. Many companies were competing with Disney as they also wanted to create a full-length animation in colour. One company in particular was the Fleischer Studios. They had ideas on creating a film in colour animation, however they didn't have the funding to create it. Therefore they went to Paramount Pictures to try and convince them to make a deal. However, they initially refused. Richard Fleischer relays that for several years, Max Fleischer from Fleischer Studios, had wanted to make a feature-length cartoon, but Adolf Zucker, the head of Paramount Pictures, had always turned him down. Who wants to sit through such a long cartoon? It would be too expensive, it would take too long to make. After the release of Snow White, Paramount changed their minds. Fleischer Studios was finally funded by Paramount, and there was a new state-of-the-art animation studio built in Miami, moving and tripling their New York workforce. They sent all of their staff and producers there, where it took only 18 months to create Gulliver's Travels, rather than 4 years like Snow White. After the year had passed in Snow White, Technicolor were able to work with Paramount to create Gulliver's Travels, released in November 1939. Lastly, towards the end of the 1930s, there was in fact a development progress in Technicolor and Disney. Plans were made in order to produce Dumbo and Bambi, which were both filmed using the 3-colour method. After the success of Technicolor and Snow White, Fleischer recalls, "It was the first feature-length Technicolor cartoon, and to call it a phenomenal success would be a vast understatement."